There they go. Good evening and welcome to the Township of Clark Council meeting of March 18th, 2024. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. We'll do it after. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Hund.
Here.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Here.
Councilman Minetti.
Here.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilman Toll.
Here.
Council President Albanese.
Here.
This meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, as adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by mailing the annual schedule of meetings to the Star-Ledger, Union County Hawk, Union County Local Source, and Tappan to Clark, by posting such annual meeting schedule on the bulletin board in Town Hall reserved for such announcements, the official website of the Township, and the proper filing of said notice. Formal action may be taken at this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time we'll move on to communications from the mayor and the reports of township officers. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Good evening, members of council, and ladies and gentlemen. A brief report tonight. Spring cleanup, lawn leafing cleanup, and branch cleanup has started. Please put them out in the street. We will be picking them up till the 4th week of April. Once April comes, we'll go into our regular branch cleanup, put them out on the 3rd week, and we'll pick them up on week 4. I'm sure Councilman Smith will get into this later, but this week we have our first Bike with a Bunny, which will be followed by our Easter egg hunt at the Clark Recreation Center. MV stops, motor vehicle stops for the month of February were 201. There was 19 traffic enforcement details and 40 radar details put out, along with our regular patrol. About 3 weeks ago, we had a little bit of a couple attempts on car thefts out of driveways in the middle of the night, and working with the police captains, I increased police presence on the road. And that overnight hour, we doubled the amount of cars we had on the road to try to deter anyone that wants to come into the town. We will continue to work in a vigilant manner to do the best we can with that. As you could see every day on the news, it is a statewide problem, and it seems like they kind of come and go out of each municipality. So the Clark Police is doing a good job working with that, and we will continue to be out there and on diligent patrol and using the men and lady power we need necessary out of our department to try to curtail and stop these people from car thefts. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman O'Connor, you have a question for the mayor?
I do. Mr. Mayor, with regard to the spring cleanup, when people have grass clippings, obviously you're not starting grass collection till later on.
Yeah.
But if they lose grass clippings from their mower or whatever, do they just drop them in the street, or do they need to put them in the paper bags?
Well, you know what, Pat? I would say if they have other debris in the street, drop it into that. If they don't, I would put it into a paper bag. Just way if it rains, it doesn't get washed away. It's contained. But if there's other stuff, they could just drop it in there like we do with the leaves at the end of mid-October.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Hund.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to piggyback off the mayor's comments, as I'm responsible for the Clark Police Department monthly report for February. We saw a total of 2,559 calls for services, including but not limited to 109 ambulance requests, 6 fire department requests, 3 motor vehicle and residential lockouts, 75 alarm calls, 66 motor vehicle accidents, 26 shoplifting and theft, 13 fraudulent and identity theft, 158 were 911 calls, and 1,844 were miscellaneous calls. There was a total of 19 adult arrests, including but not limited to 14 for shoplifting, 2 for DUI, and 2 for warrants. The Youth Bureau handled a total of 13 cases, including but not limited to 1 for shoplifting, 1 for harassment, 1 for offenses against the family, and all 13 were in-house disposition. So that concludes my report for the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hund. Councilman Mazzarella?
Yes, thank you, Council President. My DPW report for this evening, electric drop-off will be April 27th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be no drop-offs in March. This will be on April 27th. Remember that, make note of that, please. Spring cleanup begins March 20th through, as the mayor said, April. No rocks, landscape, wood, or plastic bags, flower pots, fertilizer bags, mulch bags are not considered cleanup or grass. Please dispose of it in your regular garbage. Okay, branch pickup will start in May. Please only put branches out on the third full week of the month. DPW will pick up one time on the fourth week of the month. Okay, bulky and appliance pickup started on March 4th. Appointments are required before your scheduled pickup. Please be mindful of that. Mulch and bulky pickups are completely different trucks. Please schedule the correct pickup to avoid any confusion and not having your material picked up. Okay, root mulch will be available starting April 1st. Deliveries will be on Fridays. Schedule your delivery as soon as possible with DPW. DPW has been making available at our gate 16-inch logs free for the taking. Please do not make a mess out of it. If the bin is empty, we will replenish it as it becomes available. And please, no log splitters or chainsaws will be permitted, so make note of that also. And if you need any other information, email dpw@ourclark.com or to schedule your proper pickups and see what we have to offer. To dovetail on what the mayor has mentioned to Councilman O'Connor, if you're placing any debris out in the roadway, please try to leave a 1-foot free area from your curb line to the debris. In case it rains, it doesn't go into your catch basins and clog the catch basins. That's the extent of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mazzarella. Councilman Minetti?
Thank you. In the month of February, the Clark Fire Department responded to 38 calls. This is 79 calls year to date. The calls included but are not limited to numerous odors and alarm calls. 1 call was for mutual aid from another town. 2 calls for motor vehicle fires and 1 call for an overturned vehicle on the Garden State Parkway. 1 call was for an electrical fire in a house. And as always, I would like to thank the members of the Clark Fire Department for their hard work and dedication in keeping our town safe. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Minetti. Councilman O'Connor?
Thank you. From the Clark Volunteer Emergency Squad. In February, the squad hosted the meeting of the EMS Council of New Jersey's 2nd District. This group is comprised of 24 local rescue squads in Union County working together to strengthen the EMS system. The squad has worked with the county dispatch to update the radio systems and the rigs, as well as officer portables. The squad hosted Terry Chapman's Brownie Troop and gave a first aid and tour of the squad for 12 brownies. The squad will be celebrating National EMS Week, May 19th through the 25th. Community programs will be part of the celebration. The call volume is as follows. There were 106 calls in February with 5 mutual aid calls. This does not include any calls that were dispatched and canceled. Total hours responding to calls is approximately 797 man-hours, and this does not include any hours the members are on duty when there are no calls. Year-to-date call volume is 233. Regarding membership, for those who would like to assist the squad but may not have time to do the EMT training, we are accepting applications for people who are interested in becoming drivers for the ambulance. Must be 18 years of age with a clear driving record. The squad will be reaching out to rising juniors in local high schools for our relaunch of our cadet program. Anyone interested can email the squad at membership@clarkems.org. and again, they continue to service the community. We will be offering baby safety class in April, open to all who would like to see and practice choking, CPR demos, and safety tips for parents and grandparents. We will be sending flyers out next week to the public, asking for people to sign up for the programs. The squad hosted 3 blood drives in February and is looking to expand the number each month as the need for blood is increasing. The next blood drive is March 28th, and they're asking people to consider coming to donate. That concludes the report respectively submitted by Lori Sheldon, trustee. And from the Finance Committee, we're looking to adopt the budget next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connor. Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. From the Pool and Recreation Department, the annual Easter egg hunt is this Saturday, March 23rd from 12 to 2 p.m. at the Brewer Rec Center, and it is rain or shine. There'll be a ton of entertainment and activities from the Easter Bunny magic show, Easter egg hunts every 15 minutes, giveaways, and the usual raffles. Pool memberships are now available online at ourclark.com, or you could always stop by the Recreation Department. It is the 50th anniversary this summer, so Ralph planned a summer-long celebration, and on Saturday, July 13th, will be the big birthday bash, celebrating the 50 years of the pool, and it's something you won't want to miss if you're a member. And also, registration is now open for the summer rec camp as well as spring programs. All information is online, or you could always stop by the office. And there is a senior citizens bus ride to Atlantic City, which is Thursday, May 2nd, and you need to go to the recreation office to sign up for that. And 2 events that will be in the near future will be a Somerset Patriots Family Night and a Red Bull Family Night. Please be on the lookout for that information. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Councilman Toll.
Thank you, Madam President. From the Environmental Commission, this Wednesday, March the 20th at 7:30, the Environmental Commission will hold its annual meeting at room 30 in the Brewer Municipal Building. Anybody interested, it's open to the public, and the various discussions of our Mother Nature will be held. Anybody interested, please join us at 7:30 in room 30 at the Brewer Municipal Building. Thank you, Madam President. That's all I've got.
Thank you. I'd like to give the library report provided by our director, Megan Kolochik. During the month of February, there were 8,401 visitors to the library, and there were 7,485 website visits. Some of the upcoming events coming up are on Wednesday, March 20th at 3:30, a celebration of Mr. Rogers and Our Neighborhood, Won't You Be My Neighbor Day. On Tuesday, March 26th at 7 p.m., there'll be a discussion by Wayne Zuhl talking about the solar eclipse, and he'll take a tour of the solar system. So the solar eclipse is coming up on April 8th, and if you're interested in that program, once again, it's Tuesday, March 26th at 7 p.m. The Friends of the Library has been gathering books, and thank you all for your donations. You've been very generous. The sale of books and library costume jewelry will be held on Saturday, April 13th from 10 to 3. And they're asking if you can bring your own bag, 14 by 13. You can fill up the bag as many books as you can get for $10. And also bags will be available at the event. On the history of Oak Ridge Park will be discussed with Jeff Cupo, and he'll get into the really going back to prehistoric times to current times on the history of Oak Ridge Park and the surrounding Ashbrook Swamp. And that event will be held on Tuesday, April 16th at 7 p.m. And finally, if you're interested in building a downy woodpecker birdhouse with Bob, that event will be held on Thursday, April 25th at 6:30 p.m. And each family will leave with one birdhouse, which will be ready to mount just in time for spring. They will be using power tools, so if you can register for that event, get in touch with the library. And that concludes my report on the library. At this time, we'll move on to ordinances, appropriations, and claims, and the public hearing on proposed ordinances. Whenever you're ready, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. For the record, no objections have been received in connection with the proposed ordinances. First ordinance is 24-04, ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the Township of Clark, County of Union, New Jersey, adopting that redevelopment plan titled Redevelopment Plan, Block 77, Lots 2 and 4, 175 Westfield Avenue and 181 Westfield Avenue, Township of Clark, Union County, New Jersey.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward to discuss this ordinance? Council, seeing no one, I'd like a motion to close the open meeting.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Councilman Hund. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Meditti. At this, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Yes, I'll move it.
Thank you, Councilman Mazzarella. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. At this time, I'd like to ask the clerk for a roll call.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Meditti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes. So I'd just like to remind the public that we had discussed this at our business meeting, and the objective of this redevelopment plan is to facilitate the appropriate revitalization of the redevelopment area, aligning it with Clark's urban planning, economic growth, and affordable housing goals. Situated within the township's downtown village district, DTV zone, encompassing much of the vicinity along Westfield Avenue, the redevelopment area allows for diverse land uses. These include retail and service and commercial activities, restaurants, offices, and other non-residential functions alongside residential accommodations on upper levels. Moreover, the plan adheres to the county master plan's objective concerning housing, which emphasizes the promotion of a wide spectrum of housing opportunities for various income brackets and household compositions. This entails encouraging the preservation of renovation of existing housing stock, as well as the construction of new housing units. Okay. At this time, we'll move on to the roll call.
We called the
Did
roll.
that, sorry.
The next ordinance is 24-05, an ordinance requiring the township to share pilot payments with the Clark Board of Education.
I'd like to open up the meeting to the public for a discussion on this ordinance. If you could please come forward, state your name and address for
Hi.
the clerk.
I'm John Greaves, and my address is 30 Parkway Drive. Good evening. I just had some questions about the sharing of the pilot money. It's great that there's going to be about $55,000 going to the schools where they wouldn't have gotten it before. But I was just, and some of the stuff I looked up, it might not be all perfect, so if I'm wrong on something, let me know. But it said something about it would be no less than the amount gotten in 2023. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Which was 55?
Yes, that's
5,000?
correct.
But I looked on like NJ Parcels, and I saw that it was like 106,000 that was collected. Is that incorrect?
I don't know. I haven't looked at that number, but I can tell you whatever it is, our tax office has the right number, and they would pay that number.
Okay. But the other aspect of it is that this property, since it's been redeveloped, it has changing assessment values. So at $50,000, let's just say that was it, that's based on a $5 million assessment for the property, right?
What we did, sir, is by law, we do not have to give the schools any money. Most communities do not. We chose to make a decision, I chose to make a decision and bring it to the council, that what they were getting prior to that property being redeveloped, they were going to continue to get, with the understanding that if, like Walnut Hill, let's say, for example, on across from the Holiday Inn, if that brought an abundance of kids in that would stress the school,
Yeah.
we can adjust that number upward. The county will get their 5%, and Clark Township's budget's going to get the rest.
So that's the thing that you were saying, that I'm a little concerned about. I have kids that are going to probably be entering Clark schools soon, and you're saying that the school's going to get roughly the same amount that they were getting
Yes.
before it was developed, but it was an empty lot then?
No,
Now we
no,
have 100.
prior to what was there, what they've been getting.
Yeah, so, but now there's like 170 something.
And we're going to get that money finally. And I'm going to tell you what, the township budget is going to get that money. And I'm going to tell you why. We are the collector of taxes, the township municipal government. We collect taxes for the schools. We collect taxes for the county.
Yeah.
You pay your tax bill. We collect those taxes in our office. We pay them that money throughout the tax cycle, throughout the year. When there's tax appeals, homes, industrial buildings, which has been many over the last 20 years, Clark Township eats the entire appeal. That's the state law. We do not go back to the school and say, oh, by the way, your share of the appeal is $100,000. Your share county is this. Our share is that. Or $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, depending on the size of the property. We eat it all.
Okay.
So guess what? This is our chance to get some money back and put some money in our coffers versus doing what we're doing in the past.
That's the thing, is like when you say get money back, wouldn't this money have been going to the school if it wasn't for the pilot program?
And it's still going to the schools, yes. We're
Yeah, but
just
it's going to the
confirming.
Okay, so I think you're really not talking about this ordinance. This ordinance is not about the approval of the pilot agreement. And I think that's what your questions relate to, but that issue was resolved at the time the pilot was approved, declaring this an area in need of redevelopment by the planning board and then approved by the council. What this ordinance is about is the fact that the township wishes to break away from the tradition of a pilot, all the money going to the township, and what we're doing here is giving money to the schools, which is probably, as far as we know, the only township in the state that's done this. Okay, we're not required to do that, but if you have questions on the amount that's being paid to the Board of Education, we can answer that. They're getting their percentage or proportion of the amount that's being collected that they would have gotten if it was a normal tax assessment. But this is a pilot already.
I understand. I guess the question in general, the larger question I'm asking is, and I'm getting educated here, so I don't know everything here, is that $55,000, I just looked briefly also, the revenue per student for schools in Clark is like $20,300. So that $55,000 doesn't really cover the revenue for 3 students, and we have a development there that has 177 units.
Sir.
So like 3 people living there.
Yeah, that's,
With kids.
Excuse me,
right?
President.
That's what I'm saying.
We understand what you're saying.
It doesn't seem like it adds up. And
No, we do understand what you're thinking. Our alternative was to give nothing, but we decided to do better than that because we don't want to take away from our district to hurt our district. Your school district has ended their year, the last few years, with a surplus of over $3.5 million. They're not out of money by any stretch.
well, I mean, schools need money, and
And so do towns, because you ask us how we provide your services.
What I'm saying is it
how
just
we
seems
provide
like-
police protection, how we pay into pensions. We need money too, and we taking care of our schools.
Yep.
We share a lot of services with them. We help them a lot, and we would be glad, my business administrator and I, to sit down with you. If you'd like to come in one day and talk about it, we'd be happy to do that with you.
okay. At this point, we've reached the 5 minutes, but
I didn't actually
Yeah.
get to speak for 5 minutes. I was spoken to for 5 minutes. And just, all right, I can sit down. I just wanted to confirm the amount of $55,000 does not necessarily outweigh the burden on the school system, because that 177 units is probably going to have more than 3 students in the system, and it doesn't seem like a great trade-off. I appreciate that it's better than 0, but it doesn't seem like overall this did a good job for the town.
okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to just say, the school budget is not tied to our budget. The school budget is subject to a separate process, okay? And as long as, under the new laws, they stay within the acceptable cap limits, they get all they want. They would get this, they would get, if we didn't give them this money and they needed $55,000, they would get it. But we're giving it to them. So that's a separate issue. But as far as the school budgets getting their money, they are getting what they request. If they need to go over that amount, there's a process the school board follows to get additional funds if they need to go over their cap. They can put that budget up to a vote. That is how it used to work. The budgets were voted on. Now the process has changed. Okay? Is that... Anyone else?
Good evening, Michael Schulman, 382 Carolina Street. Maybe some of my comments can also shed a little light on maybe John's questions. We don't have to have a lengthy talk about pilot programs. Obviously, this was in the works and has been settled for some time. But as I'm reading this and as I understand both the municipal and school budget, this ordinance is kind of for show. The municipal budget's going to be the municipal budget. School budget, as Council President alluded to, they get what they want by state law, regardless of this. The money we're getting in goes to the town. It's nice they're giving some to the school. I'm thrilled they're doing that. But in essence, all this really does is shift the tax burden on to the rest of the taxpayers, right? They are not ratables anymore if they have a pilot program. So as the prior speaker alluded to, the budgets for both the municipality and the school board are being funded by less people because the folks that are going to be paying 170 some odd units are not going to be assessed in the same rate. So the burden sharing of this pilot program actually raises taxes on the balance of the folks in Clark. Nevertheless, because again, as the councilwoman or council president alluded to, these agreements I think were in 2019 and 2020 when the development started. Can the council point to what the tax revenue would be if the pilot program was not put in place and it was developed naturally, we'll say? Can the council discuss what the total pilot payment is per year, for how many years, and we expect that? Lastly, can the council discuss whether or not the pilot payment is based upon a fixed rate, or is it going to be based upon the income or rents collected at the property? Thank you.
Okay. This ordinance is not about
Madam President?
the details of the pilot, excuse me, Mayor, is not regarding that. We obviously do not have all those details. Here they're readily available. You can take a look at the pilot agreements. A pilot is put in place because an area is in need of redevelopment. That is a whole different issue, and there are a lot of requirements to qualify as an area in need of redevelopment, and also there's a lot of qualitative issues about how you want your community to look and what development is done in your community. I'm sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
No, I don't have all the numbers that Mr. Shulman asked for, but I'll just one quick broad brush. He can get the numbers from Jim when he gets back next week. If he wants detail by detail, no problem to get him that. The municipal budget will be earning more money off that site. If it was on the old tax rate, the county would be taking 20-odd%, and the municipality would be getting the least amount. We provide the most services. We provide tax appeals, we provide infrastructure repairs and upgrades. It's more. Probably off the top of my head, the traditional rate, I'll call it, would be more money total, but the municipality would be getting less. The county would be getting more. The schools would get some more. But we are the people, not the schools, that are providing 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year service there, infrastructure, and everything else that goes on. And because of our great working relationship and shared services with the Board of Education, Madam President and members of council, we can adjust that number if need be going forward. That's a matter of us making a vote, a recommendation from the administration and a vote. And P.S., the Board of Education nor the Superintendent of Schools has said one word about it. They're totally happy with, what's going on. They're getting the end of their year with a $3.5 million surplus last year. So I don't know how this is trying to get skewed to make it look like we'd be getting less. Pilot programs are for areas that are in, a broad brush, again, not to get into a lot of detail, are for areas in need of redevelopment. You go into a pilot because you want to encourage that parcel to be developed, and we needed that parcel to be developed through our affordable housing, as you know, and there's another bill going into Trenton today that's going to raise those numbers statewide. I was reading it before. But at the end of the day, it saves the developers some money, which they're supposed to make a better place for it. That was the way that basically the state can cobble the deal in layman's terms. The pilots were used for that reason. At the end of the day, again, I will say, I will not apologize for bringing more money into our budget and trying to stabilize the costs that we have in municipal government. Because we talk about all these niceties and services we do, they cost money. When we put extra police presence on the street to combat car thefts and burglaries, it costs money. This is a 24-hour-a-day, 365-day-a-year operation. So again, I appreciate the citizens' concerns, but we are continuing and very happy at what we've done. Thank you. And if you want more detail, feel free to call my office. And sir, John, I believe your name was, if you'd like to meet with my administrator and myself and come in and sit down and go over it on paper and pencil, I'll be glad to do it for you, because I know you said you're kind of new to it. I know Mr. Shulman has talked about it a few times, but he can get any numbers he wants whenever he needs to. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify one statement that Mr. Shulman made, I didn't say the school gets whatever they want. It's within a limit. It is a separate body who determines what their budget will be, and they do have caps, just as the township has caps on appropriations and caps on its levy. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? Seeing no one, I'd like to close this portion of the meeting. Thank you, Councilman Mazzarella. Do I have a second? I'll second that. Thank you, Councilman O'Connor. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, I'd like a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Councilman Smith.
Second that, please.
Thank you, Councilman Hund. At this time, I'd like a roll call.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti. Yes. Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted.
Let's move on to introduction of proposed ordinances. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Okay, the first ordinance for introduction is 24-06, bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements and the acquisition of new additional furnishings and a new automobile vehicle, including original apparatus and equipment in, by, and for the Township of Clark in the County of Union, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $1,730,000 to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate a state grant, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, the public hearing on this ordinance will be on April 15th, and I just want to remind everyone of what we discussed at the workshop for the benefit of the public. This capital ordinance will include parking lot improvement programs, parking lot construction, reconstruction, and some of the areas included are Bartell Field parking lot construction, Bradley Road curb reconstruction, paving of Cromwell Court, Kent Place, Largo Lane, Partridge Run, Ritter Place, Russell Court, and the municipal parking lot and driveways. In addition, we'll be paving Valley Road. And as was explained by our business administrator, the way this will be timed is we'll do half of Valley Road with this ordinance and the DOT grant of $346,000 and time it so that we'll have it in next year's capital program to do the other half of Valley Road. In addition, we'll be purchasing a $275,000 dump truck with plow and spreader for the Department of Public Works, $100,000 for furniture to be used at the library, which will be complemented by a contribution from the library as well. In addition, we'll be renovating the bathrooms at the recreation center, and that's $100,000 of that ordinance. Okay, let's move on to ordinance 2407.
I'll call the roll.
Oh, sorry, roll call.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Maniti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Ordinance 24-07 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 24-01 entitled An Ordinance to Fix Minimum and Maximum Salaries.
Okay, at this time, I'd like a motion for this ordinance.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Councilman Maniti. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. This ordinance contains a correction regarding the position of senior building maintenance worker, which is covered by a union, so couldn't be in both places. And the public hearing on this ordinance will be on April 15th. At this time, I'd like to ask the clerk for a roll call.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Maniti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Ordinance 24-08 is an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to Fix the Salaries of Police Personnel for the years 2024 through 2027.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Councilman Mazzarella. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, please.
Thank you, Councilman Hund. At this time, we'll have a roll call.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Maniti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes. The public hearing on this ordinance will be on April 15th.
Ordinance 24-09 is an ordinance to fix the salaries of the white-collar employees for the period 2024 through 2027.
Do I have a motion, Council?
I'll move that, please.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Maniti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes. So those last two ordinances relate to collective bargaining agreements with our police and with our white-collar employees. At this time, we'll move on to payment of claims.
Thank you. I have reviewed the bills for the month totaling $303,407.48.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to the citizens' hearing on the agenda. I'd like to open up the meeting to the public. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, please come up and give your name and address to the clerk, and all remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body, and not to exceed 5 minutes in duration.
Good evening again. Michael Schulman, 382 Carolina Street. Before I get to what I wanted to comment on, the mayor keeps mentioning tax appeals. Just over a,
The agenda, you can come back up later.
on the agenda.
This is on the agenda. Items on the agenda.
I got early.
Is there anyone else who would like to come and comment or have a question on items on the agenda?
Would that include 2406? I just had a couple questions about that in a general sense.
No, we passed that. We just had the public hearing on that. Well, that you can come up at the public hearing on April 15th.
Okay. All right.
Is there anyone else? Seeing no one, I'd like a motion to close the public session. Thank you, Councilman Toll. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Thank you. We'll move on to the resolutions on the agenda.
The first resolution is opposing New Jersey A4 and S50, which proposes to overhaul the New Jersey Fair Housing Act in a manner that imposes new unrealistic compliance deadlines and obligations and invites developers to subject municipalities to repetitive and unending litigation.
Okay, this resolution was discussed at our workshop and was going to be motioned in second, or is going to be motioned in second by the entire council, but I just want to make the public aware that the Senate passed the legislation and moved it on to the governor's desk. We don't know what he'll do at this point, but do we want to move ahead with this, council? Yes, opposing? Good. Okay, Madam Clerk, you can call the roll.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti. Yes. Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Number 8 is authorizing an upgrade to the contract with GovPilot for cloud-based government management software and maintenance in the amount of $90,909.
Do you have a motion, council?
I'll move that, please.
Thank you,
I'll
Councilman
second
Hunt.
that.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. I just want to mention to the public that one of the things we implemented last year was GovPilot, and it's automated a lot of the licenses and applications that our citizens have to apply for. It makes it easy for them to go online and apply for these items. And I just want to give you an idea of the statistics that the business administrator provided on what the activities have been on GovPilot this past year. Dog licenses, 1,713, cat license, 138, retail food establishments, 234 licenses, business registrations, 360 applications, landlord registrations, 56 applications, construction, 1,569 transactions, certificate of compliance, 89 transactions, planning projects, 4 transactions, zoning projects, 92 transactions, vacant property, 7 applications, dumpster permits, 9 permits, garage sales, 281 applications, bulk pickup, 726 applications, and to report a concern, 249 requests. At this time, I'd like to ask the council if they have any other comments. Otherwise, we'll call the roll.
Councilman Hund. Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Number 9 is authorizing the financing of the HVAC replacement for the municipal building through the program authorized by the BPU in the amount of $183,044.60, interest-free over a 5-year period via the National Energy Improvement Fund.
Council, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Second that, please.
Thank you, Councilman Smith and Councilman Hund. We will achieve significant savings, as was outlined by our business administrator entering into this program, so thank you to the administration for their hard work on this. At this time, I'd like does anyone else have any comments? Madam Clerk, when you're ready, if you could call the roll.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Number 10 is utilizing the state and local cybersecurity grant program administered by the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness through the CrowdStrike Falcon endpoint detection and response solution with 24/7 managed cybersecurity and authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver the memorandum of agreement for services.
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move that, please.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Minetti. Just want to mention to the council, as was brought to our attention by our business administrator, first of all, CrowdStrike is a superior cybersecurity software system providing endpoint security, threat intelligence, and also cyber attack response services. So we're very fortunate to get this discounted rate by participating in this state program. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Number 11 is appointing Edward Cardozo and Andrew Plummer as members of the Clark Volunteer Fire Department.
Is it okay if we EC this, council?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Always a pleasure to have new members joining our Clark Volunteer Fire Department. We certainly wish them luck and thank them for their service. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, you can call the roll.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese. Number 12 is accepting the resignation of Carmen Brocado as Director of Public Safety.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move that, please.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, would you call the roll?
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
The next two resolutions are council as the pool utility. The first is award of contract to Clark Concession Operations LLC in the amount of $8,100 for operating and maintaining the pool food concession stand for the 2024 pool season.
I'd like to move that, please.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, please.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connor. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, if you could call the roll.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Next is award of contract for pool maintenance to Aquatic Service Incorporated in the amount of $35,706.60 for the 2024 pool season.
I'd like to
Do
move
you have a
that.
motion?
Yeah, I'd like to move that, please.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilman Mazzarella. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, you can call the roll.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes.
Consent agenda resolutions. The first is authorizing the tax collector to refund overpayment of sewer fees in the amount of $1,430. And next is authorizing the tax collector to apply sewer account balance adjustments as credit in the amount of $79,290.46.
Council, do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I'll move that, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Toll. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Minetti. Roll call, Madam Clerk, when you have a chance.
Councilman Hund.
Yes.
Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes.
Councilman Minetti.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Toll.
Yes.
Council President Albanese.
Yes. This time, I'll ask the clerk, do we have any new business on the calendar?
No, there is no new business.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up the meeting for public comments. If there's anyone who wishes to come forward, please do so. State your name to the council. Give your name and address to the clerk and address your remarks to the council as a body. And your time is allotted to 5 minutes in duration. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward?
Hi, John Greaves again, 30 Parkway Drive. I did have a question. Can I ask a question now about the 2406?
Yes.
So the main question I had was, it seems that you guys are getting a grant and you're using that as like money that you're also going to ask for, you're going to issue bonds, so it's going to create more debt, right? You're taking the state grant and you're going to take the grant plus what you're getting from the bonds. And I just was curious, how much is bond, that debt that's being created, and how much is the state grant? That's the only question. That's the only question I had, and
I'll answer when you're done.
and then the second thing was related to the situation with the pilot and that the school board. I just wanted to urge the council. It seems like the school board and the town and the county would be getting more money if the property had been kept as a vacant lot. And I'm all for development. In fact, those apartments look really nice, and I like seeing them. I'm not going to live in there. I have my own house, but I urge the council, when giving out pilot grants or programs, I don't know how it's properly stated, to take that into account. Because you guys are talking about how you're giving $55,000, but that $55,000 would have been going there if it weren't for the actions taken previously. So you took something away, you gave it back, but then also added the increased burden of public resources that development is going to use, police, fire, as well as children that are going to go to our school. And I'm happy to have more children in the school, but it should just be offset. And so the question is all that remains that I had about the debt versus grant.
The ordinance is for $1,730,000, and the grant is $346,690. That's a DOT grant, and the down payment is $66,310.
So you guys get like 3-something in grant, and you're trying to raise about 1.7 from that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
I wouldn't jump early again. Michael Schulman, 382 Carolina Street. Just to address the idea of recouping losses, tax appeals last year amounted to about $18,000 and change. Not really a significant number, I would submit, particularly in some of the items that have been passed regarding other payments in town. But I wanted to talk about two things tonight that unsurprisingly weren't addressed. The first is the lawsuits filed by our Police Chief Matos and Officer Teston. As everyone knows, we've been doing this now multiple years, and we are now engaged in more litigation. These officers are now suing us. We'll note that for the record. For not being dealt with quick enough, but we all know why it wasn't dealt with quick enough. The individual who had to deal with it was involved. Nevertheless, the top law enforcement officer in our state told you all what needs to be done, gave a recommendation, was terminate these individuals. And that, again, could have been done. Instead, there was a ongoing mediation, hearing, arbitration, something that was passed, and there's been no updates regarding that. So with that backdrop, is the town taking any public position as to the lawsuit? Has the town retained further outside counsel, imagining that Triarcy Betancourt is probably going to be conflicted out of this issue again? What is the status of these mediation arbitrations that were supposed to take place after the AG recommendations came down? Have those hearings been held? What has the result of those hearings been? And most directly, does anyone on the council Does the mayor believe these individuals deserve to come back and keep their job? And is anyone advocating for that publicly or privately? Second issue I want to discuss is another person who's employed by the town under another investigation. That's our municipal court judge. Reported this month that he's under investigation for representing municipal employees, including law enforcement officers and code enforcement officers who would then be appearing in front of him. His professional affiliations with law enforcement officers and personal friendships and professional relations with the Clark Town Code officer, quote, acted in a manner that casts reasonable doubt on his capacity to act impartially as a judge. That is the complaint and what it alleges. I can go on. I imagine someone has read the article and the complaint. With this backdrop, and with another issue involving ethics and keeping things in the dark, since this news is broke, which has been several weeks ago, has any action been taken? Unlike the officers in the prior comment, this is an at-will employment, single-year, 2-year, 3-year contract. There is not the same due process mechanisms that are required. This could simply be a termination. Has the mayor and council discussed termination? Have they discussed this issue at all? When did the town council and when did the mayor become now informed of this issue? And does the council or the mayor believe that the judge should continue to serve while under an investigation? Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? Seeing no one, I'd like to close this portion of the meeting. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to mayor, council, and professional comments.
Yes, thanks, Madam President.
Mr. Mayor.
I don't know, the gentleman from Parkway Drive, I'm kind of confused on where I should even go with this I'm going to say at this point, I do not think the Walnut apartment complex has put any burden on the school district. Pilots versus taxes, a lot to be said. Towns make their choices. I know many towns throughout the state and municipality are working, as you know, Council President, within pilot programs. So I don't think we're all wrong, number one. There's options, there's reasons, there's a lot that goes into it. Yes, we do get an increase of, I believe it's 3 or 3.5% upon the revenue. That goes up. It's a winner for the community. We've been hearing about these pilots now, I don't know, I must have heard 4 or 5 times in the last 6 months about pilots, and from people who have every right to ask the question, and they should, but don't really understand the process. And it's kind of hard here in a nutshell to explain all this without sitting down. Madam President, as you know, being a financial officer in this Township of East Brunswick. Gentleman was asking about our bond issue that we're going on. Yes, we're getting a DOT grant for, I think it was $365,000, and we are bonding money. Yes, we're raising debt. We're absolutely doing that to provide services for you and your family and the rest of this community. Building improvements, road paving, equipment for our township. So yes, that is a yearly process of government, raising bonds to do capital improvements. Matter of fact, proud to sit here and tell you, I've been the first mayor in many moons that has actually paid debt off, not just paid interest on bonds. Prior to me coming to office, and rest his soul, John Laza laying out a fabulous debt service plan. Our bonds have been paid each and every year, and not only have we paid interest, we've paid principal. You're sitting in a $12 million building, your taxes never went up because of it. Because each year, debt falls off the fee schedule, new debt comes on. We pay down principal. We've refinanced. I'm giving you a 20-year picture, 24-year picture. We've refinanced debt. We've paid down on bond anticipation notes. We've set a program here that's second to none. So our bonded debt was never a reason that you'll hear a tax increase here in our community. There's other reasons, but not that. So I don't know what more I could say on that. Mr. Shulman made a comment about the 18,000 in tax appeals, probably correct on that, and that's okay. A few years back, we had to pay $1 million to Hyatt Hills. So that's what I talk about, Mike, about, you know, getting our share of the pie. Listen, we can make this a campaign issue, we can make this a monthly issue, whatever you want to do, it's okay by me. At the end of the day, this is the way we're doing it. This is best for the community. Unless you really understand it thoroughly, which obviously from the questions that are being arisen, you don't, and this is a winner for our town. The schools are in good shape financially. There was a time the schools used to suck wind every year. Again, that unit has been sold out. It'll be a moneymaker under the pilot agreement for the community. I certainly don't care about Union County. We're providing the services. If the school children have a problem, then we'll turn around and work with the Board of Education as we always done. The lawsuit with the police that you mentioned, Mike, you're an attorney. I wish you would know this stuff. I'm sure you do, but maybe your professional life is one way and your political life is another way. They're not suing us per se. They are going before a Superior Court judge because they feel their rights were violated in the time it took to do this investigation. Period. Nothing to do with me. I didn't take 3.5 years for it, and they didn't deserve to be out 3.5 years either. That I will tell you, in my opinion. So, no, is there any more opinion than that? If the court says that the police officers are wrong, then they will have a hearing, which is due process. Due process, that's an attorney word. I'm a contractor, you're an attorney, you understand that word. I hear it from guys like you. It's due process at that point. So at this point, I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. It's up to the court system. They go before the judge. If their 45-day rule was violated, they're gonna walk away. Period, that's the end. Whether they come back here or not. Because the Attorney General makes a recommendation, it doesn't mean it's 100% correct. It's up to the appointing authority, and a lot of times through attorneys and negotiations, that comes to that middle. You can lay the hammer, as you know, as a defense attorney, down on anybody, but it doesn't mean it's right. I could say tomorrow, they got to do this. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's right. You're a lawyer. You're a defense attorney, I believe. You should understand that better than I. Judge Ignacio, I was never informed as a mayor through the court system that there's an issue. He had called me and had spoken to me personally about this, I guess, investigation you want to call, allegations maybe would be a better word, I'm not quite sure. And I support the judge 1,000%. Matter of fact, you filled in as a municipal public defender here, so you should know its qualities if you sat in a courtroom. I've had defense attorneys, guys that I know that are good defense attorneys, come up to me in my 24-year period and say to me, are you going to reappoint the judge? He's up this year. And I said, yeah, sure, why wouldn't I? Oh, he's one of the best municipal judges in all of New Jersey. Fair, balanced, does a great job. So if we want to come up here now and start chopping him up every month, be my guest. But you saw his body of work when you sat here and got paid by Clark Township as a public defender for one day. And if you don't think the judge is a damn good municipal court judge, then I've got to think about you for a few minutes, because everybody that I respect in defense law over my 24-year period has come up to me and told me this Judge Ignacio is one of the best judges in all of Union County. Matter of fact, what sold me years ago, I saw the way he handled a 16-year-old young lady. I'm going back a long time ago. Matter of fact, I was a councilman at the time. And this young lady took her mother and father's car out, 15, 16 years old, for a cruise, and the CPD grabbed her, and there was a fine of like, I don't know, $100 or $150. I'm going back a long way. And the judge brought her up. I was sitting there that night. I don't know what I was there for, but I stopped in, and I enjoy listening to that sometimes. And he said to the young lady, do you work? And he talked to her about the whole process. And she says, yes, Your Honor, I work in, I don't know, maybe she was working at McDonald's or Burger King or one of those places back in the day. And the judge says, listen, the fine's, I don't know, let's say $100. I don't recall exactly. And he said to her, but I don't want your mom and dad's check. I want you to go out to the court window, and I want you to make a payment plan with her outside, the court clerk, whatever you could afford each week. I want you to come in here and pay her so you can understand what you did was wrong and how compassionate but understanding but smart he was to try to make her understand mommy and daddy's not going to take care of this process. And I got to tell you, I'm proud to have Judge Ignacio on our bench, and I wasn't the guy that appointed him. Mayor Ellenport had appointed him prior to me. And when I came into office, because I've known him since high school and the quality he performs here, and I would just hope for the political reasons we keep him out of it. I would think maybe being a defense attorney and he's a judge, if you got something to say, he's down on Westfield Avenue, you should go talk to him one-on-one about it. I don't want to bring him into politics. I think it's unprofessional. And what he's being alleged of, maybe that you could say that's unprofessional. We'll see when it comes to fruition. That's all I could say. As far as the cops come, you have no idea who those cops are. You don't know the body of work they did here. Yes, or did something that was inappropriate, like I have done. But the body of work that they did and the fairness that they showed to people in this community and way they were respected, but you weren't here then because you're newer to the town and you're not really in the fabric of the community to know what goes on here. Coming to a meeting once or twice a month and complaining about, pilots and people and this and that doesn't bring you into the community and know who these people are. So when they were here, we had a damn good chief here. One of the best I had out of the 4 I had. Damn good. And they have a due process and a right. It doesn't mean because people are going crazy after our community and individuals, it makes them right. I sure one could feel that and feel that way, and we'll see in the end. I don't know. It's just like I said. I guess, it's going to be funny. On the 25th, the petitions are filed for mayor and council race this year. It's going to get more ridiculous. So, the name, we'll go back to the name calling and the questioning and this and that, and who said this and who said what. It's under investigation. It's a lawsuit. We can't comment on that. You're an attorney. You know better than that. Guys like me should be getting up there asking that question. You should know better than that. You should know better. That's it. I had enough.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Hund.
Yes. Sorry about that. Just a couple things. I want to welcome the new members of the Clark Volunteer Fire Department. It's great to see 2 more members come on there. We always need volunteers, as Councilman O'Connor says, pretty much every month for the different departments. So that's great that we have 2 more members. Thank you to the police department for the continued diligence on the roads with this radar traps and things of that sort that's been going on for quite some time now, possibly about a year. And then also for making the changes with the increased presence of the number of officers out on the road during certain times of night when people like to come into town and try to steal some high-end vehicles and things of that sort. And then also wish all the spring sport teams throughout the town, from elementary school, actually no, there's no teams in elementary school, I take that back, middle school and the high school, good luck with all their sports because they're starting that up last week, and if we can all support them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hund. Councilman Mazzarella.
Yes, thank you, Council President. To dovetail on what Councilman Hund has said about our police presence around our community, I've been getting a lot of positive response from the residents saying they like it and they wish it to continue. It's a great job that our police force is doing, having these roving units around with their lights on. It gives the residents a little bit more a sense of security. I commend our police department doing that and keep it going. Thank you. And please, as I've said, each month, the mayor has said this many, many times, please, residents, lock your vehicle doors at all times, and your residents' doors, keep them locked. And if you see something that you don't quite understand or you're uncomfortable about, just call our police department. They're going to respond immediately, and they're not going to get annoyed or aggravated. They want to ensure your well-being and safety. So please remember that. anytime you have a problem or you're concerned about something, don't hesitate to call. Just call our police department. They'll come right down, and they'll make sure that everything is okay on your property, in your house, and yourself. And until next month, be well, stay safe, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mazzarella. Councilman Benetti.
Thank you. I just want to, again, welcome Edward and Andrew to the Clark Fire Department. I think it's great to have more volunteers and really appreciate the time. I just want to give my condolences to a dear friend, class of 1987, Christopher Canada, passed away recently, and I want to give my condolences to Debbie, the boys, and his family. He was a prosecutor in Clark, and just a great loss, just a great guy. So, again, my condolences. And finally, just want to wish my son a happy birthday for tomorrow. Other than that, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Benetti. Councilman O'Connor.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the residents of the Second Ward and of the town. There's been a lot of road construction recently, specifically Public Service has been shutting down lanes here and there to upgrade. So I know it's something we've all dealt with, and I appreciate everybody's patience with it. And I want to thank the police as well, because I'm sure you guys have to deal with the traffic and the unhappy people, specifically when it was on Central Avenue. I'm sorry, on Central Avenue by Raritan Road. Other than that, by the time it gets down here, a lot's been covered. I'm not a big repeater, but worth repeating is thanking the new members of the Clark Volunteer Fire Department, because it's easy to complain, but it's hard to do. And these two gentlemen stepped up to give back to the community, and I want to thank them and all the volunteers in Clark. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connor. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a reminder, this Saturday from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock is the annual Easter egg hunt. So if you're around, please come down for a fun few hours with the kids. There's candy raffles and a lot of entertainment. That's all I have there this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Councilman Toll.
Thank you, Madam President. I wasn't going to get into this, but I'm going to say this. It was brought up about Judge Tony Anasio. Tony Anasio is a Clark kid. I'm not going to get into a whole thing, but I'm going to say this, because I had a personal experience with Tony Anasio, not in front of his judicial, but through a friend's daughter who was in the grips of addiction and drug abuse, who was killing herself. And they came to me and asked me for help. And I had heard that Tony gave interventions and discussions and talks, not in front of his bench, but in his office. And they asked me for help. They were in desperate times when your child is lost from drugs and needs help. And they weren't getting it from the parental guidance. They weren't getting it from anybody else. So I sent them to Tony, Judge Anasio, a friend, a Clarkite, somebody who grew up on the streets of Clark like us, who cared. And he talked to that mother who was in tears to try to help and guide the daughter out of her thinking and her chemical dependency. Unfortunately, that girl had passed away, and those parents never were the same. But Judge Anasio took the time out of his busy schedule, everything he's involved with, just to try to help a fellow human being who was lost. Something like that is very special. And we are lucky to have him in this town doing what he does best, trying to help other people who make mistakes find the right road and the right path and do what is good for our fellow man. Why life is so short, I've known Tony Anasio for years, and I can only say one thing: what a great, great person. That's all I got to say on Tony Anasio. Who we've lost in the last month: Michael Corporasso, an executive board member of Clark Little League, Clark Pop Warner Football. To his family, our deepest sympathies on your loss. Charlotte Gessler, former Linden teacher, and active in all the affairs at St. Agnes Church for years. Her and her sister were there every morning, opening up the parish, doing things for the church. Our thoughts and prayers to Chris, her twin sister, on this loss. Ed Koza, longtime parishioner and friend of the St. John's community. Ray Goldman, Lieutenant Clark PD, retired. 27 years he drove and served the Clark Police Department. 27 years. How do you do that for a job unless you care about the community and care about your fellow soldier officers and your family and your residents of your community? His sons are still police officers. I know they're just getting out of retirement, how time goes by so fast. To Mrs. Goldman and his son Ray Jr., Chris, and Vincent, there's no words I can say to you except we will miss your dad. He was a really good mind. He was one of my Little League coaches when I was a kid, but he gave so much of himself for the safety and the betterment. He rode that night with Billy Watterson, who was taken from us on July 4th. He was a part of that, officers of that generation. To George Sikora, lifetime Clarkite, somebody who grew up in the township of Clark, became a Clark police officer. He became a Clark police sergeant, served for 31 years of dedicated service. He made Clark a safer place to live. To his wife Helen, children Teresa, Michael, Louise, Deborah, Patricia, and all the many, many grandchildren. Again, a special person who gives of themselves back to the community. There's no words to say anything except we appreciate everything he did, and he will never be forgotten. Edith Muchmore, loving wife, mother, friend to many. She was my neighbor. For years, every Christmas Eve, they had a party, invited the entire neighborhood over. Mrs. Muchmore would be remembered because of Mr. Muchmore. Mr. Muchmore was one of the founding members of the Clark Little League. That's why Muchmore Field was named in his honor. To Debbie, Eric, Eddie, and Bonnie, class of 77, our condolences to your loss of your mother. She had a long life of 95, but we will never forget the two of them. You're always the support of the good man, Mr. Muchmore, the support of a lovely wife who was there for him to do the good things he did for the town. Again, it's just a simple process of helping others and not tearing people down. With that said, Madam President, I thank you for your night. I'll see you next month.
Thank you, Councilman Toe.
Madam President, if, Councilman O'Connor, I yield my remaining balance to Councilman O'Connor.
Thank you very much. I knew Brian was going to touch base on Mr. Golban, and I just wanted to say, I did not know Mr. Golban when he was a police officer, but I knew him as a neighbor. I was neighbors with him for 20 years, and you couldn't find a neighbor, a better man, and a better family. So my condolences to their family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Madam Clerk,
No comments, thank you.
Counselor? No comment. Okay, I just want to touch upon a few points that were raised during the public comments section of the meeting. John, I appreciate you coming tonight and asking all the questions about the pilots. And it might seem like it's not a good deal, but as I mentioned, there's a lot of requirements that have to be met to even be included as an area in need of redevelopment. And then beyond that, you have to look at the qualitative issues, as I mentioned earlier, that are involved in how the town should proceed. So I hope you do sit down, take advantage of the invitation from the mayor. You can take a look at all the records on that. And as the mayor said, this state of New Jersey is going through, we have a lot of blighted areas, areas in need of redevelopment, so it's a common theme throughout the state. Many towns have separate redevelopment agencies. There's so much redevelopment going on. You take places like Jersey City, New Brunswick, all the redevelopment that's gone on. So we're a small piece of that, but there's a lot that's going on in New Jersey, which brings me to the next point that was raised about the example that the mayor raised about how taxes are raised and the impact on the township. So if you take $100, try to keep it simple, and the schools get about $60, and the county gets about $25, and the towns get about $15, and that's pretty much the percentage breakdown throughout the state of New Jersey in each town. When monies aren't collected, the township has to pay the $100, but they're only getting $15, so they have to pick up the $60 for the schools and the $25 when there's a tax appeal. Now, probably we have very small appeals right now. What happened a year or two ago? We had an entire tax revaluation. It was a very laborious task. It was a very costly undertaking for the township. People were very nervous about what was going to happen. Generally, for the most part, most of the people were unaffected. But there were some people that got a lot of increases and some people that got a lot of reductions. So when that happens and the revaluation's done, the tax appeals aren't going to be that significant. But we were required to do that revaluation, and when the valuations were very low, below the fair market value, that meant more of the tax appeals were taken on by the township. So I just want to, hopefully people understand that part of the process.
Angel, may I add one more thing to that, please? I forgot. What's your real complaint should be here tonight about is how the state of New Jersey only gave our community an increase of $200,000 in state aid for our schools. When I'll give you this riddle to go home and figure out, because I'm still trying to figure it out. It's been a week or two since it's happened. New Providence is a smaller school district than ours. Median income is higher than ours, and they got way more than us. Neighboring community, it's a city with more schools. Rahway got a $13 million increase. The city of Newark got a $50 million increase, now putting them at $1 billion a year in state aid. So when you're talking about school issues, those are the ones you start looking into and try to understand why we're always getting the short end of the stick. Because like I said, I could understand some of the cities. Of course, they have a dozen schools, a dozen and a half schools, and many, many, many people. My question is, how about New Providence? How about New Providence? Smaller district, higher medium income, and get more money. That's where the problems are in this state. But thank you, Madam President.
And then finally, as far as, all the questions about rights being violated and firing people, et cetera, I agree with what the mayor mentioned, especially about our chief, Matos. But I think really it makes me reflect upon the citizens of this township, their rights being violated by the case dragging on and on for years, not being handled properly. I'd like to congratulate the fire volunteers that were mentioned, and it's well appreciated, and I hope to see everyone at the Easter egg hunt. At this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye.